Chat. I think this is something that needs to be talked about. I think it's something that needs to be explained. Whether you play the TCG, whether you do this as a collector, whether you are here because you want to hear RamFam's financial advice, because you want to sell, because you want to flip, you want to vend, I think it's important that you understand that these small little pieces of cardboard, though they have value, have a lot to say as well. And the only way they can speak, aside from the actual text of what that card says and the condition, I think that speaks volume for a card, is their rarities and their card numbers and why they're important and what they represent. So as you can see right below here, there are but a plethora of tabs. And those tabs all represent many scenarios that we will review today. So buckle up, pull your pants back up, swipe out of Reddit or the hub or whatever you're in. We're going to jump right into this. How to read your card's rarities and card numbers. Now, before I go through this, I want to call out a couple things. I'm going to give you as many examples as I really can. But even these tabs that I review, I'm still purposefully missing a handful of different scenarios. Am I saying that they're not important? No. I'm saying for the sake of time, for what you're more often than not going to run into, these are the type of account. These are type of cards that you're going to be running into that I think are important to note. All right. The other part is these 4 letters and numbers, excuse me. I'm going to review these for important reasons. These are indicators of the sets that they come in. And these last 3 numbers are really the unique identifier for that particular card. Now, that particular number, in this example, 038, can be used multiple times, even within the same set, but that does not mean it is the same card. So let's start essentially from the bottom up. I got a lot of manga in here. I got a lot of story booster. I got some crazy cards in here. I got tournaments. I got rarities. A little bit of everything. Take all of this with a grain of salt. We got AI. You got Google. You can figure out some great things. Let's jump in. First card up. Son Goku ST0103, Mr. Judgmental Goku. In reality, this is him coming back from the afterlife to help his sons defeat what's-his-face Broly. And if you look here in the bottom right corner, might be tough, but don't worry. It even says the rarity here. Maybe you have cards right next to you that you can look at. This is common. Red label C common. Nothing too fancy here. Nothing too crazy. You'll get plenty of these. This is what some people often refer to as bulk. But Story Booster does something a little different. It's going to take that same card, and now, though it's not a rarity that you would see in the bottom right corner of a change of color or a common, but now you'll see the actual card itself have this Dragon Ball pattern. And I talked about it before. If you've seen Pokemon TCGs, I don't know if One Piece does it, but Pokemon as a TCG has Master Ball, has Pokeball, and probably a couple other variations as well of patterns that they have on the card. So presumably, if I pulled a common and I wanted to know the general value of that common comparative to the Dragon Ball pattern, presumably Dragon Ball pattern has more value to it. Does it change the card in terms of its gameplay? No. I think this is just a cool way to be able to get more people to get into the TCG, maybe focus a little bit more differently instead of the value, maybe actually collecting. Does it provide anything for the game? No. But still a cool pattern nonetheless. Now, still on the common train, Choo. You will see here this this Piccolo still bears this C, but rather, and you can see here the rarity of common, rather than having a pattern, it's got an interesting, I guess we can call it, stamp. And this is a release event stamp. Now, to my knowledge, and please fact check me here, as I recall, they're only release event stamp cards for commons and uncommons. So, for example, you won't find a 2-star super alt art leader release event, right? These are typically, at least from what I recall and from what I remember seeing, only common and uncommon, which we will review in a second. Now, you'll note something interesting between this Goku's red C and Mr. Piccolo's green C. Has no significance over the rarity, but if you play the TCG, you can't mix and match colors. So often you'll see, I run a green deck, a red deck. So don't focus too much about the color in there in this purpose, or for this purpose, but rather focus on the stamp pattern or the rarity actual number inside of it. Now, one thing I didn't review, cranberry juice. My father had what's that thing called? Kidney stones. I was in the hospital when they were trying to take him out. I thought the Marine Corps taught me fear. Urinary health is very important, chat. Keep that in mind. Maybe I'll create some sort of affiliate program with a cranberry juice company. One thing I do want to talk about, you'll see here, and I mentioned it earlier, STO1. But if I go to Piccolo, I have SB as in Bravo 02. Now, these are references or codes to the set that they come from. So Storytime Booster, do you see why I call it Storytime though? You see now? That's why I've always thought it was before I figured out it was Story Booster. Storytime Booster, STO1 is their code. How can you tell? Because then you also have Storytime here, Story Booster here. And if I look, and I just know because I'm a manga guy, I have SB02 for manga. Now, another layer to this, you can't just rip this out of an SBO1, SBO2, and find a release event. You have to go to a release event, earn these packs, rip them, and then you'll have them. Okay. Moving on. Now we're talking about the uncommon. So we got commons and now uncommon. Now, as we kind of build this ladder, it's not to say that every uncommon is more than a common. Every super rare, secret rare, leader, blah, blah. You know, it's not to say that they're always going to be guaranteed to be more valuable or more sought after. All right. So uncommon here, SBO1 is a manga, the first manga specialty set. Provides us with a good example of an uncommon. Again, we're not focusing on the color because that's more so for gameplay. You're building decks. I'm more so focusing on the contents within that color. You see, uncommon. This is Majin Buu, great piece of artwork. Now, we really start talking, and I'm 99% sure there is no alt arts, the common cards. If there are, let me know. But you will find some alt arts to some uncommon cards. And manga provides a really, really, really good example of this, where now I have an uncommon, and there's no AA lettering inside of there, but rather alt art is represented by a tiny star. Ooh. So sometimes you'll find more value, not necessarily more popularity, not necessarily more a more sought after card, a more monetary value from cards with a star that have the same number comparative to their non-star or non-alt art brother or sister. SB01036, SB01036. An uncommon card. I can pick it up for less than $1. An uncommon card, but contains that star. It is now an alt art, and I have to then more than 270 times my initial investment on the other version of this. Same stuff. If you want to read that text right here, look out how that don't move. I'm going this way. This is the same stuff. Yeah, that text is still the same card, right? Same play. I play that same card. If I want to build a deck, and for whatever reason I'm running the orange and I need this card, I might as well just buy 3 or 4 copies of these versus 3 or 4 copies of these, right? I digress. Now, another good indicator to see that this is an alt art, typically alt arts, when you compare it to the I guess normal version, you'll see here I got this big border. The images are generally within those borders, versus you can see some overlay. I usually take up more room on this. Not always the case, not like a guaranteed sort of scenario, but just an important note to kind of call out. That's another good indicator of an alt art. So if you're kind of going through your cards and you're not looking at the bottom right, just a little visual representation. Now, uncommon cards, like common cards, can have a release event. So another good, I love SBO2, I love SBO1, so I'm going to use those anytime I can. But another good example, we got a manga release event card. Not all release event cards are the same. Why is this one so much more? I don't know. I think this one's a little market ridiculous. Yeah, 20 is even crazy. But again, you can only get this when it first came out. If I take a look at the Piccolo, 20 bucks. Kind of nuts. Manga's very sought after. And again, I can tell by that stamp. Now, that stamp's not always in the bottom middle. I've seen it on the left. I've seen it a little bit more to the right. I've seen it higher up. It just depends on the particular card and the art. Code card. Yeah, I threw this in here because some of y'all don't play the TCG and it shows. All right, go ahead and download that. You can get it on your Mac. You can get it on your PC. You ain't gonna get it on your phone. And go ahead and save these. A lot of times people will open up a deck and take that code card and throw. Daddy Ram's got a stack, baby. A stack of them. Now they do expire. SBO1, SBO2 are dead now. You got to use them right away. It comes with a design code. Keep them. They're color coded, but they're also labeled here on the bottom. So when STO1 comes out and you start ripping them, or you get them from me, keep them. Worth it. Anyways, moving on. All right, now again, we're kind of working up our food chain. Rare. Again, the color's not so much what I want to indicate here, but rather what's inside of that little circle thing, oval. And that's an R. That stands for our rare. All right, again, STO1. I like the alt art to this, so I chose this one. Again, if you look at the artwork, it's generally within inside of the panel. All right, you got the strong borders. I have the R. I know it's STO1, so it's the first variation or the first release of Storytime, right? Eventually, we'll see STO2, STO3, because it's going to be a trilogy, if you will, like the Matrix. But then I have my alt art to this. Same card, STO1008, STO1008, but you can see it's very different artwork. A good example, this is not going outside of the border. Remember, it doesn't always have to. It doesn't have to be like the Majin Buu that we had here. All right? Not all cards play by the rules, and that's okay. A lot of people I found in our Whatnot streams, by the way, make sure you're there Tuesdays, 9 p.m., Saturdays, 10 p.m. Eastern, $3 start. crazy stuff. We do snip and ships, dollar starts, bundles. We do sacks. Sun Gotenks and Sun Gohan, Adolescence, alt art. You see the red border. Sometimes people will see that. I can't believe I have these right next to me. Sometimes you'll see those, and then you'll think of these like manga alt arts, the limited manga pack release alt arts. And that's not the same thing. Don't assume that if you see red, that it is all instantly a very valuable card. All right, purely coincidental. Is there more value to this card? Yes, but is this to the level of what we would see with like the manga limited pack ones? To be determined. Awesome. Moving on. Then we have SRs. SRs, the S represents super, the R represents rare. You can see that that breakdown right here. A lot of people in different TCGs will often use SR, and sometimes they're for secret rares or for Dragon Ball. SR is super rare. By the way, this card I'm gonna buy every one of these cards that I find. You're never gonna find these on TCG players. I'm gonna every single one of them. Absolutely beautiful. Anyway, now remember what I told you. Alt arts typically will be outside of that frame. But you can see here, this is not an alt art, and technically, look at his hair. It does go outside that border, outside that frame, right? Even the hand a tiny bit's kind of riding that, edging it out. So, not all cards play the same. I'm just trying to give you a broad Ram. I know 15 cards off the top of my. Okay, cool. I'm not saying they're all like that. I'm saying you'll typically see. Okay, Gotenks. Again, STO1. It is an SR. Again, the blue is signifying purely for gameplay. It does not provide any other significant value outside of that. But now I look at the alt art. Now, here's what's a little interesting, and I purposely chose this Gotenks card from STO1. Alt arts generally will change the actual art of the card, the image of the card, comparative to its counterpart, right? So, man, Ram's a genius. So, this is STO1008. Very different artwork comparative to the alternate artwork, right? But if we look at the super rare, it is technically the same artwork, but now they're making a variation of this card. I forget what we call this. It's on their website. I'm calling it Rainbow. I can't remember if that's what it is. But it is the same piece of artwork, the same cell. Shout out to whoever put that, those 2 or 3 people that commented in the last video. It's the same cell. They're just doing it in a different variation. So typically you'll find alt arts and super alt arts, which we'll talk about, as the same card, but different art of that card. This one's taking a different approach where I'm taking the same card, same artwork, giving it to you in a different style. Rainbow, whatever they call it. Still a super rare, except now it's an alt art. Now, how do we look at alt arts? Remember, you're not going to find like an AA. You're going to see that with the star that is in the bottom right of that card. So you'll see SR super rare star meaning alt art. So this is a super rare alt art Gotenks STO1 021. STO1 again referring to the set, and this is the card. You're not always going to find like 001, 002, 003, and like just kind of going all the way up, all right? Moving on. Now we're starting to get some of the big ones, right? Here we have, before we had SR, secret rare. Now we have SCR. What is that? Super common rare? No. What we have here is secret rare. S as in Sam, C as in Charlie, secret, 2 letters, and then rare. So 2 letters are together, and then rare. Secret, rare. SCR. These are generally more valuable than its predecessors. Not necessarily more valuable than the predecessor's alt arts, but exceptions do apply, of course. But SCRs, secret rares, again, generally inside the borders. You can see an elbows out here. Generally harder to get secret rares. And now we're going to start really building some blocks to go up. Because from our secret rare, we then have secret rare alt arts. So now we're going to look for, are we going to look for AA? No, Ram. We're going to look for a star. So now I have an SCR, a secret rare 1 star. Now, a lot of people will refer to this as a 1 star. A lot of people will say alt art. So, I have a car, I have an automobile, I have a vehicle. Same shit. We're all saying the same shit. We're just saying a little bit different, right? So SCR with the 1 star is a secret rare. Secret rare. Alt art. Right? We with me, kids? All right, now we're going to keep on building this building block. Because above that one, we now have, or we've always had, but we now have our example of secret rare. But now I got 2 stars in there. And that 2 star is super alt art. You with me here? So the SCR is secret rare. Now I got 2 stars. 1 star means alt art. 2 stars means super alt art. That's right, children. So now I got an SCR 2 star, a secret rare 2 star, or sometimes referred to as a 2 star. This is generally the top hit of a set. This is the creme de la creme. I mean, gun to my head, how much is this card going to be worth? I think it can go as low as 3,000 to as high as 5,000 on a release, and it'll probably settle between 2,500 and 4 grand. I don't know. We'll see. I think it's interesting. The only way I buy that card is if I pull it. The same way I pulled I pulled this one. Would I ever buy this 2 star from Dual Evolutions? Probably not. Probably not. But if I pull it, I'm happy with it. So this is now your SCR. Again, borders mean nothing in these ones. They're filling in as much as they can in terms of artwork. But then you have some variations, and hopefully someone's happy about this, where you got a rare card that offers you 2 stars, even though TCG has this labeled as super alt art. I've actually seen this card labeled as ultra alt art. And I think there's only 2 of them in existence. And look, even though this one says super alt art, has 2 stars, a lot of people refer to this as ultra alt art. And I think this is only in manga SBO 1 and 2. Look at that. Ultra, which is the 2 star. So you start to get into some weird, well, this is the broad rule, except, you know what I'm saying? So I don't want to dive too, you're not going to see this too often. I think there's literally only 2 cards that exist. I think it's this one, and I think for SBO 2, it's Goku driving with Piccolo. I think. Don't quote me on it. Moving on, because we got to move on. Now we got leader cards. These are important. Technically, this is the front of the card, and this is the back, but I digress. Leader cards, FBO 8, Broly. FBO 8, Broly. Excuse me. You cannot go off of all the cards. You can see here, this should say STO1, signifying that it is coming from Story Booster, but that is not the case. See, exceptions to the rule exist. But I do know this comes from Story. This card is signified, let me see if I can see its rarity, as a leader. That leader is that L. No, you're not a loser. It's just a leader. And it does show it on both sides of the card. Because if you play a TCG, you'll know that both sides are fairly important. Moving on, you can also have a leader alt art. And a leader alt art, my goodness gracious, is a L with a star. Think about it. An L with a star. Remember, you're not going to see an AA. This isn't a bad habit I've developed over the last 15 years. This is a leader alt art with a star. You can see we still got a lot more to go, chat. Just kind of buckshot in my shotgun here. I'm just throwing a plate of spaghetti at a wall. Now we're talking about energy markers. But not all energy markers are the same. You will find some people call this the base or silver energy markers, as they like to call it. They do have a card number down here, E signifying energy, the card number. Technically, there's no rarity, but people will just call it an energy marker, and that's kind of its rarity. But there are silver energies, kind of like second place, if you will. And then there are gold energies, kind of like first place. Significant price difference between the same exact card, $37 on Namek versus $3,000, probably, you know, $1,500 plus sales in this. Gold is a very, very high price tag. We pulled a couple of these on our whatnot, Snips and Chips. Some people paid $70 for this. Why aren't you there following us, subscribing to this channel? Anyways, not all energy markers have golds, though. Keep that in mind. But some energy markers, again, this one's not as sought after, but energy markers that are base or silver do have gold energy markers to it. Obviously not the price difference that you see comparative to the other ones. Then we got winners. Oh my goodness. Winners can go down. Winners can have its own 2-hour video. And I'm not going to go down that path because half of you probably don't play. And if you do, then you know exactly what these are. So you have the ultimate battle winners. I think you have the release event winners, which are usually done like a week sometimes before an event comes out. You win that tournament building that deck. You can win one of these often. Well, I won't say often. Every single time I've seen them, they've always been sealed. Individually sealed. I don't have an example. I should know. Then you got store tournament winners, where stores are holding tournaments. You got to win these. Then you got ultimate battle winners. Here's another variation of them. I want to say this one was the top 8 prize. 1632 for I can't remember this one on top of my head, but there is a higher variation version of this. That higher, I actually have it here as a PSA 10. You won't be able to see it. Maybe I have it in here, but there is a stamp saying there's a championship finals on that card. Oh, here we go. This is a good example. This is a championship finals card. Oh my goodness gracious. Then we're talking about serialized, though you'll see here in the bottom right, super rare. Well, Ram, you talked about super rare 55 minutes ago. You know, I thought this isn't going to be valuable. Well, hang on. Not all cards are built the same. These are serialized. What's serialized mean, Ram? I mean, I think it's laser printed, but these cards themselves, in this scenario, I don't know if this is the actual count of this card, but I'm just going to use it as an example. There's only 2,222 of them that exist in the world. They'll never come out again. So in theory, I'm a rich, wealthy entrepreneur. I can go out there and buy all 2,222 and I'll know. I'm like Seo Kaiba. I'm going to own all 3 Blue Eyes White Dragon. This guy's going to own all 2,222. So serialized is even more pristine. Ah, here it is. Perfect. So on the bottom, it's hard to see Championship 2024-25 Finals. This is the big boy. You got to earn this one. You ain't rip. You can rip as many cards as you want. You ain't never. Energy marker EO7 Championship. Then for other variations, not have to do with rarities, but then you have booster packs. These booster packs will include, oh my goodness, how many cards are in a booster pack? 12? I think it's 12. 12. Yes, 12 cards and then your digital code. But those packs have 12 inside of them. Typically, and this is changing with Story Booster, you'll find 24 of them inside of a booster box, and you'll find 12 booster boxes inside of a booster case. Case, box, pack. But that's not even the end of it. You also have sleeved booster packs, which is exactly this exact item here, except it's sleeved behind some cardboard, individualized. Chat, we went through a lot today. Let me know what you think, because we still didn't even dive too deep into all these different variations of winners. Energy markers get a little wild too sometimes. Leaders, there are some other super alt art leaders, I believe. Ultra alt art is only 2 cards that I recall. Super alt art, your secret rare, your super rare, your super rare, your uncommon. I mean, man, it just gets wild, chat. It's a lot to absorb. Put this video on repeat, share it, like it, subscribe to it. Check us out on our Whatnots, Tuesdays at 9, Saturdays at 10 p.m. If you found this helpful, let me know. Share it with another Dragon Ball collector, investor, a Pokebro. I don't care who sees it. Make sure you like, subscribe, and make sure you join back tomorrow again for even more. We'll see you.